In 1943, a doctor met a child who seemed unreachable. The child wouldn't look into people's eyes and he would repeat words, routines endlessly. And he would react in terror when his world would shift even the slightest. But back then, no one actually knew what this meant. But that boy and 10 others like him would forever change the way we see the human brain. This is the story of the first known case of autism. The doctor's name was Leo Kanner. He was a psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins University. And one day a boy named Donald Triplett was brought to him. And Donald, he didn't speak the way other children spoke. He preferred to spin objects for hours. Lost in fascination, he avoided eye contact. And the fascinating thing about him was that he memorized patterns and numbers, but he would struggle with human interaction. Now, Dr. Kanner had seen children with developmental delays before, so it wasn't his first. But Donald was different. He wasn't delayed in the typical sense. He was indeed different. And over the next few months, Dr. Kanner studied not just Donald, but 10 more kids just like him with similar traits. And those traits were withdrawn from people, obsessed with routine, unique but sometimes extraordinary memory skills, and deep struggle with language and connection. And in 1943, he released his groundbreaking paper, Autistic Disturbances of Affective Contact. And for the first time, the world had a name, early infantile autism. But what Dr. Kanner didn't know is that across the seas in Australia, another doctor was making his own history. And that doctor was Hans Asperger, who studied children who sometimes spoke fluently, sometimes brilliantly. They had intense and narrow interest, eccentric. And while Dr. Kanner's patients or children seemed withdrawn, Dr. Asperger's children seemed like future professors in the making. And this became known as Asperger's syndrome. 2 doctors, 2 continents, 2 different types of symptoms, all under what we know as one spectrum. But the early history of autism wasn't just about discovery. There were a lot of mistakes that were made. For decades, in the early days, autism was confused with schizophrenia, and parents, especially mothers, were blamed. And they had a name for this. It was called the refrigerator mother theory, which essentially meant parents who weren't actively involved in their children's life caused them to have autism. And this myth caused a lot of hardship, guilt and struggle to families who were already struggling. And it wasn't until the 1980s that autism was separated from schizophrenia in diagnostic manuals. And it wasn't until 2013 that all forms, so Kanner, Asperger and others, was all recognized as one condition, Autism Spectrum Disorder. So what about the first boy then? Donald Triplett, the very first boy diagnosed with autism by Dr. Kanner, lived a very long, fulfilling life. He loved numbers, golf and traveling. He grew up in a small town in Mississippi that actually embraced him for who he was. And at the age of 89 in 2023, he passed away. The boy who helped define autism also helped to prove through his life that having autism doesn't mean a life without joy, without passion. Doesn't mean you're not living a full life. The story of autism began with one doctor, with one child in 1943. But today it belongs to millions of families across the world. And if this story helped in any way or gave you a different perspective, do hit the subscribe button. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.